Thank you. Good stuff. Well, thank you and welcome everybody after the summer recess. It's fantastic to see so many of you. You look rested and well. It won't last. So I do wonder, we have some new people around this table. I wonder if we could very quickly just canter around the table. I'm Tracy Brabin, Mayor of West Yorkshire.
Morning, I'm Ben Steele, I'm Chief Executive of the Combined Authority.
Good morning, I'm Caroline Allen. I'm Deputy Director, Legal, Governance and Compliance.
Good morning, I'm Councillor Kathleen Scott, Acting Leader for Care Place Council.
Morning, I'm Councillor Matthew Morley, Portfolio Holder for Planning and Highways at Wakefield Council.
Hi, I'm Councillor Claire Douglas, Leader of City of York Council.
Councillor Sylvia Dacre, and I'm informally substituting for Councillor Jane Scullion and Councillor Tim Swift.
I'm Councillor Rebecca Paulson. I'm Leader of the Conservative Group on Bradford Council.
Good morning everyone, Councillor Alan Lamb, Leader of the Conservative Group on Leeds City Council.
Thank you. I'm Councillor Sue Holdsworth, Liberal Democrat representative from Calderdale Council.
I'm Nikki Chance-Thompson from the Peace Hall and here in my capacity of the LEP.
Heather Waddington, Head of Funding Strategy at West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Good morning, Mick Bunting, Interim Director of Transport Operations and Service Transformation, West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Luke Albanese, Director of Mass Transit for the West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Morning, Angela Taylor, Director of Finance and Commercial Services for the Combined Authority.
Good morning everyone, I'm Simon Wolverton, I'm Executive Director for Transport for the Combined Authority.
Good morning, I'm Dave Haskins, I'm Interim Director for Passenger Experience and Asset Management for the Combined Authority.
Morning, Liz Hunter, Director of Policing, Environment and Place at the Combined Authority.
Good morning, Felix Kunyampo from Director for Inclusive Economy, Skills and Culture at the Combined Authority.
Thank you. Morning, Melanie Corcoran, Director of Transport Policy and Delivery.
Alan Rees, Chief Operating Officer at the Combined Authority.
Susan Hinchcliffe, Leader of Bradford Council.
James Lewis, Leader of Leeds Council.
Hi, Ian Park, Governance Services Officer for West Yorkshire Combined Authority.
Thank you all so much. Thank you very much. It's going to be a busy few months ahead as we head towards Christmas, and there's obviously changes afoot as well within Westminster with all the reshuffles and so on. I would say at the time of meeting, there's a lot of difficulty for our colleagues in local councils having to respond as a matter of urgency to crumbling school buildings, and obviously hearing the stories across the country and locally of the financial challenges facing local authorities, having struggled through austerity over the last 13 years. So can I just say publicly, I want to thank all my local authority colleagues, working leaders, councillors and officers across West Yorkshire dealing with these really tough challenges. It doesn't feel like it's going to be easier anytime soon. So we are here in lockstep with you to support you. And the strength of our partnership is key. That's why the West Yorkshire Plan 2040 was such a huge success. All of us standing together to make West Yorkshire a better place to live, a brighter West Yorkshire that works for all. So lots on the agenda today, so let's get on to the main meeting. Ian, any apologies?
Yes, so we've had apologies from Councillor Scullion and Councillor Swift. Also apologies from Councillor Jeffrey. Councillor Morley is attending as substitute.
Thank you. May I ask Caroline just to talk us through the voting situation and the substitution for Sylvia?
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, just to clarify for transparency and for the purposes of the minutes, as we've heard, Nikki Chance-Thompson is here as a member of the LEP board and is attending to ensure that the LEP and the business continue to have a seat at the table pending the appointment of the LEP chair, who will subsequently provide that role formally as a member of the CA. Councillor Dacre has been asked to attend today by Councillor Scullion, leader of Calderdale, as unfortunately neither she nor her substitute, Councillor Swift, are able to attend. So, with the agreement of members, both colleagues can participate in the discussion and debate at today's meeting, but for the avoidance of doubt, should the meeting go to a vote on any item, neither colleague would be able to take part in that vote. And if members take the decision that item 10 is exempt at the end of this meeting, both colleagues will leave the room at that point. Thank you, Mayor.
That's very clear. Thank you so much. Okie doke. Moving on to item 2, declarations of interest. Any members have any interest they wish to declare? No. Thank you all so much. That's fantastic. As referenced by Caroline, the exclusion of press and public. Officers have identified Appendix 2 to Agenda Item 9 around the UK Shared Prosperity Fund, and Agenda Item 10, property matter, contain exempt information, and for the reasons set out in both reports, that in all the circumstances of the case, the public interest in maintaining the exemption outweighs the public interest in disclosing the information. So can we agree with officers' recommendations that the press and public will be required to leave the room, and we will pause the recording whilst we consider the exempt item appendix to item 9 and item 10 in its entirety? Are we happy to agree with the officers' recommendation? Yes, good. Thank you very much. Okie doke. Moving on to the minutes of the West Yorkshire Combined Authority held on the 27th of July 2023. Any comments or questions? Yes, thank you. Sue.
Yes, it's just, I think, a typo. It's on page 7 of the minutes, the Local Electric Vehicle Infrastructure Scheme, paragraph 2, it says the Mayor added that the government was going to introduce a ban on the sale of new electric vehicles from 2030. And that can't be right. It's surely diesel and...
It was a misspoke. Yeah, thank you. But can I thank officers for the accuracy with which they minute? Good stuff. We're ready, apart from that misspeak by me, lovely, content to record those as an accurate record of the meeting. So let's move on to the items for decision. Item 5, investment priority 3, creating great places and accelerated infrastructure. This is 3 schemes recommended for progression through the assurance process. These are going to help deliver those new homes across the region and contribute to my pledge to increase the number of affordable homes. Now, each of these schemes is in Leeds and uses the government's Brownfield Housing Fund. This is such a great welcome programme that encourages new development on brownfield sites, but there is a problem with it. That the government's imposed rules about how the money can be spent favours sites with higher land values, and it makes it really difficult to bring forward schemes across West Yorkshire where market failure is the real problem. So I want to tell members, and it has been circulated, you will have it on email, the letter I've written to Michael Gove today, asking him to give us that flexibility to deliver new homes across the region and truly level up. So to speak more about the schemes we're funding today, can I invite Liz, please, to outline the schemes for consideration?
Thank you, Mayor. So as you have already said, the Brownfield Housing Fund is an £89 million programme. It is money from government, and we are working to the government guidelines and criteria. So just to give a couple of examples of what that means, and I'll go into the site. So the government criteria, it is about market failure. So it is where we have to satisfy ourselves that the sites wouldn't either come forward at the pace that we'd like them to. And also it's around a BCR of 1 per project. And they have to be, the time scales are quite tight by March 25. Clearly we want to make sure that we do make progress, but that does mean that some schemes which are maybe more difficult to achieve early progress on aren't eligible for the fund. That said, it's really great that there are 3 schemes in front of you today which we are recommending that you approve to the next stage of delivery. So the first scheme is the Points Cross Phase 2 scheme. And this is, as already mentioned, all 3 in Leeds. This one's in Leeds City, in the Hunslet area of Leeds City Centre. It's bringing forward 183 high quality and energy efficiency homes, and that's a mixture of social rent and affordable shared ownership. There's quite a lot more detail in the papers, so I won't go into more detail now, but the second scheme is at Sky Gardens. This will develop 306 bedroom apartments, again for sale for rent in Leeds. And the third scheme is at Water Lane, where you've got 375 apartment homes for rent as well. There is quite a bit more detail in the papers, so I'm happy to take any questions on those. But what we're looking for today is your agreement for the Points Cross scheme to go through decision point 4 from the full business case into delivery. Similarly on Sky Gardens, for that also to proceed through decision point 4 and into delivery, and similarly the same for Water Lane. So hopefully with your agreement, these schemes can progress and we can actually see the sites coming forward and being built out. Thank you.
Thank you. Any comments on this item? Yes, thank you. Rebecca, then Sue.
Yeah, hi. Just maybe Liz can answer it. The caveat, I'm not a Leeds councillor, so it's not my area of expertise, but obviously there are all apartments coming. Is there still a huge demand for apartments in Leeds? Because there seems to be an awful lot of them. As I know everybody does, it's more demand for family homes and houses rather than apartments. So obviously these are all apartment schemes, so maybe you can just share some light on that.
Thank you. And
I think James might like to come in with very detailed knowledge.
Thank you. I think these schemes are a particular housing type, and obviously the focus of the Brownfield Housing Fund is to sort of move forward and on the areas of market failure to bring forward the brownfield sites in the city centre. I mean, across Leeds, across Leeds there is lots of other developments. So Combined Authority members will know a lot about the East Leeds Orbital Road, which opened last summer. A project I've been through here in the Transport Committee a number of times. The purpose of that was to bring the infrastructure in ahead of development of the East Leeds extension, which is around 4,000 sort of family homes style development. So this isn't the only development happening in Leeds at the moment, but the reason it's coming here is because it is the area where the Brownfield Land Fund makes an impact in terms of moving development on. As Councillor Lamb well knows, because we discuss it a lot at the council, we're really keen to see brownfield sites developed to give us a housing, to bring forward the housing units. That means that when we come back again for looking at our local development framework, we can sort of demonstrate we are delivering a lot of housing units. So it is, there is a bigger picture in Leeds around housing growth in the city, and it isn't just city centre apartments, but yes, there is still significant demand at the moment, which again, there are schemes around the city centre that developers are bringing forward without any public sector involvement, and the fact they're coming forward, I think, shows the continued demand.
Thank you. And also I'm pleased that there's a fair chunk that are rental for rent. Obviously not everybody can get on the housing ladder, so rented apartments and properties that are decent places to live, I think is to be welcomed. Sue.
Oh, thank you, Mayor. My question really is looking at particularly the Water Lane site. 375 apartments, and of those, 5% are going to be rated affordable, which equates to 19. Now, that seems to me that whoever is the developer behind this is going to make some substantial profits on the houses that they will, or flats they'll sell that are not as affordable as the 5% that are affordable. So I wonder really why the Combined Authority is subsidising the development of these houses. This was a question that came up at our briefing. And the question is, we asked the profit that the developers were likely to make on these developments. And the answer was they thought between 10 to 15%. So given that, why are we subsidising these developers with public money? I mean, I'm all for brownfield sites and the accessibility, the cycle stores, all these things are great, but it doesn't really seem to me that the public are getting a great deal for for the money that they're going to invest in this through the combined authority?
Thank you, Sue. Obviously, the money for brownfield is to remediate the land, to make it attractive to developers. So that's where we come in, because developers can pick other bits of land where they want to develop and make profit because it's within the rules that government have laid out. They are allowed to do that, but we are attracting them to areas, particularly in deprived areas that need that regeneration. This is what we're doing. We're investing to make sure that that land is ready to build. But Liz, if you'd like to just add anything. Thank you.
Thank you. So, as the Mayor has said, many of these brownfield sites are in private ownership. So if we want to bring them forward, then we are working with the private sector, and the private sector won't obviously deliver anything unless they do make a profit. But I suppose in terms of reassurance, the team do something called development appraisals, which gets into quite a lot of detail about all the costs that a developer would have, for example, how much they paid for the land, the construction costs, and then the benefits that they might be able to receive from the development. So the idea is that we are trying to test the viability of those sites. But I think it's recognised that the private sector will make a profit, but we're trying to make sure that it's not as high as it would otherwise have been with government subsidy kind of coming in. But there's a wider political question about this fund, and it was set up to do this very purpose, to try and bring forward these sites and work with the private sector in this way. And we're trying to make the most of it for this area and to bring forward these homes. But we do try and scrutinise and make sure that we are challenging developers through the process in terms of the level of profit they will make.
Thank you. Thank you. Any further comments? Okay, Sylvia.
Just to say that Coaldale very much welcome the letter that you have sent to Michael Gove. We in Coaldale have found the Brownfield Fund extremely challenging. I mentioned we have small sites that are very difficult to make work under those criteria. So anything that can be done to actually enable us as local authorities to have more flexibility in how we can access money to build on brownfield is very, very welcome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, Susan.
I'd like to second that, to be quite honest. Obviously, it is very frustrating that brownfield land can only be used in certain parts of the country. But brownfield housing fund can only be used in certain parts of the country. So it would be good to have government recognise that actually they need to understand the dynamics of the different economies of the UK, and then we could all get access to this kind of funding.
Thank you. If we are to grow the economy and level up the country, we need to level up our region as well, and we need to be allowed to do that through government interventions. Okie doke, we're happy to approve these recommendations. Lovely, thank you all so much. And moving on to the next item, item 5B, which is Investment Priority 5, Future Transport. This report provides details of 5 schemes recommended to the CA for progression through the assurance process. Could I invite Susan as chair of the West Yorkshire Transport Committee, and then Melanie to outline the schemes?
Thank you. And I'll let Melanie go through the details. This paper includes all sorts of schemes, including obviously traffic lights, etc., all the fundamental things that we need as a region to keep going. But just to reflect really that every meeting, whether it's Transport Committee or Combined Authority meeting, we're coming with new schemes for approval, which shows the progress we're making actually as a Combined Authority. So I think that's pleasing to see, and long may that continue.
Melanie.
Thank you, Chair. The first scheme for consideration today is the CRSTS capacity funding. So we were awarded £830 million from government over a 5-year funding period. And in conjunction with that, they also awarded £21.3 million in revenue support to help us to develop the pipeline for this programme and for future programmes for funding, but also to develop a new local transport plan, LTP4, and to make sure that we had the right policies and strategies in place, an effective pipeline, and that we were starting to develop our business cases for future schemes. And some of those are schemes that were identified in the CRSTS programme, and some of them will be future schemes as well.
So in total, 21.3. The first 5 and a bit million was approved earlier as we started to do that work, and this is a request to draw down the remaining funding that is available. We are working across a number of areas across West Yorkshire to support this. So we're looking at capacity both within the Combined Authority and within each of our partner councils. We're also looking at using external expertise to develop business cases. So on that aspect of things, the Combined Authority will be letting some contracts where every authority will then benefit, but the allocation will be coming to the Combined Authority, who will then contract on your behalf. Some will go direct to local authorities, and that's the initial amounts that are identified in here, and that could be direct hires or external support as well, but there'll be further funding to allocate, approximately 5 million in terms of external support or direct support to local authorities. But the recommendation is that we enter into the contracts with the local authority partners to allocate the first amount of funding, and that we continue to progress the Combined Authority work in terms of the district, the West Yorkshire wide work that we're doing as well.
Lovely. Any comments on these approvals? Fantastic. That's really great. Thank you so much. We're moving swiftly. I like this. I like the speed at which people are happy to go. So we approve these 5 schemes outlined through the assurance process. Thank you all so much. Moving on. Sorry.
Do you want me to go through the others? I mean, I just briefly talked about the first one. Do you want me to very briefly?
Apologies, Melanie.
Talk
of course,
about the
yes,
others?
you only touched on the first one.
Yeah, so the second one, which I think you will all be familiar with, is the network management renewals and enhancements. So this is the one that relates to our signals infrastructure and equipment. We were awarded 25 million across 5 years in the CRSTS settlement. This is to release the second part of the year 2 funding, which is 3.96625 million, and there will then be a further business case on an annual basis to release the future funding as well.
Any comments? Lovely. Melanie.
The third one is the bus cycle priority corridors, Woodhouse Lane Gateway. So this is a scheme in Leeds. So we're looking at bus-only streets, north and south bus lanes, junction improvements, reroute general traffic to prioritise buses, walking, cycling. There'll be 1.1 kilometres of segregated two-way cycle track and widening of footpaths. So just the sort of thing that the CRSTS fund is looking to support. So the total scheme cost 20.5 million, and the proposal here is that we release another 300,000 in terms of development funding to proceed from the strategic outline case for this scheme to the outline case.
Happy? Alan.
Thank you, Mayor. Yeah, just a couple of questions on this. I don't know if it's for you or if Councillor Lewis will want to come in, but it's one of the busiest routes in and out of Leeds for motor vehicles. Where are they going to go? And this is 1 kilometre stretch. What happens in the kilometre before and what happens in the kilometre afterwards?
Melanie.
Yeah, so we will be working with the local authority to look at diversion plans, and they will have those in place when the work starts. So there will be diversions that will be highlighted on that particular route. Well, during the works, and then obviously they'll look at rerouting traffic from a permanently from then on. So there'll be transition routes, and then while the works are going on, and then there'll be traffic directed after the completion of the works.
Would you like a little bit more detail on that, Alan? James.
That would be helpful.
Yeah, I was just going to offer the same. I'll get a briefing from Highways for you, Alan.
Thank you. You said you had a second point. Oh, that was it? Okay, lovely. And any other comments on this particular route? No, thank you very much. Melanie.
And the next scheme is the A6110 Leeds Outer Ring Road. So for this scheme, again, it's looking at an outline business case, moving to full business case, and the scheme is going to be delivered in 2 phases. So phase 1 is looking at junction signalisation. It's also looking at a bus bypass and a cycle route along Elland Road South and the crossings. The phase 2 then comprises a cycle route between Elland Road South and Elland Road North, and the junction with the retail park. The scheme again is funded through CRSTS, but also through Section 106 developer contributions as well. And currently, we're looking at phase 1 with total scheme costs of up to 8.761, which is affordable within the funding envelope. And we're looking for approval to proceed from outline business case to full business case with the release of an additional 879,000.
Thank you. Everyone happy or further comments? Good stuff. Thank you, Melanie.
And then the final scheme is the A58 Beckett Street. So a series of improvements along the A58, new bus lanes, bus signal prioritisation, segregated cycle routes, new pedestrian crossings, wider footpaths, extended bus stops and waiting areas and landscaping in that area as well. So the scheme will benefit bus users, but also those that are travelling by bike and on foot and wheeling. The costs of the scheme have increased, but we are able to accommodate this within the programme because the previous scheme we're just looking at phase 1 rather than funding phase 1 and 2. Total scheme cost is 16.42 million. The total funding released or sort of to be released at this point is 1.5 million, so that they can continue to develop to the full business case.
Thank you. Just one thing on that, Melanie. Is the data from the bus safety app being cross-referenced from that to that work when you're doing landscaping around bus stops, etc.? If not, could that be done?
We will take that away. Yes, thank you.
Thank you, to increase a sense of safety when travelling by bus. Any comments on the last item? Rebecca?
Yeah, I understand from officers that Leeds City Council said this should be called Beckett Street scheme, not the A58 scheme, because it's changed the name of the scheme apparently. So I was advised yesterday.
James?
I'm not an officer, but this is a for people that know Leeds. This is the bit from the edge of the city centre behind the bus station up to St James's Hospital. As it says in here, as it says in the short description, that component, which again for people that live in Leeds know, it's often a source of frustration for people. Getting to St James's Hospital and the access and some of the congestion on that. On that short route. This is about developing the scheme. Hopefully it will get, this is taken out particularly the component of Beckett Street. So it may have got renamed as it's become a more clearly defined scheme during its development, but it is, like I say, is that bit from the city centre to St James's, and that's always been sort of clearly the focus of this scheme, with the purpose of making St James's Hospital easier to get to with less congestion.
Thank you. No further comments? Oh yes, Sylvia.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to make the point on behalf of Calderdale and also people who live in York, that this scheme is of course not just a benefit to those in Leeds, it's a benefit to everybody from across the region who has to travel to St James's. I know from bitter personal experience.
It's a point well made, thank you. So in conclusion, happy to approve all those recommendations? Good stuff. Thank you very much. Thank you, Melanie. So moving on to strengthening the private sector engagement. This report sets out plans to strengthen our engagement with business, supporting the decision by government to withdraw support for LEPs. Can I invite Felix to talk us through this item, please?
Thank you, Mayor. Board members will note we came to the previous meeting to update you on where we were with the government's LEP review. This paper sets out some of our thoughts since then, and I'll draw attention to a couple of things. One, the outcome of the LEP review, in essence, landed on two main points. One, that we ensure that we retain a meaningful and strong private sector voice in what we do in the combined authority. And two, in areas where a combined authority exists, that the LEP arrangements are folded into the combined authority and well integrated. We're very fortunate here that that was already the case, so there isn't a lot of new work that needs to be done. Having said that, there's a lot of work that we know we need to do to make sure we're engaging with the private sector and taking full advantage of the expertise there. The paper sets out in paragraph 2.12 a set of considerations that are currently underway, and I'll just quickly outline a few of them. One, there's work underway to appoint a new chair of what used to be called the LEP, we'll work out what the new name will be. This new person will also double up as the Mayor's business advisor. Secondly, appointments to this new business board, what used to be the LEP. We've concluded the recruitment to that board as we announced at the last meeting, and the names of the board members are set out in the paper for you. Thirdly, we're looking at how we can trying to bring together all the private sector members who we work with in the combined authority. Not all of them sit on the LEP board. There are others who sit on our committees. So we're looking to bring them together and set up a platform, a forum where we can engage with them, share ideas, listen and learn, and seek input into the work that we do. On top of that, we're working to look at how we can bring in the wider business body in West Yorkshire. And here the emphasis is particularly on the large businesses in West Yorkshire. There are some really big businesses here who have not just a national but international reputation and footprint, and we feel we could engage with them better. So we're exploring how we can do that well. And finally, we're looking at how we could engage more meaningfully with the third sector, the voluntary and community sector, and also other key partners who are part of the wider West Yorkshire system. So there's quite a lot underway in terms of our consideration to strengthen how we engage with the private sector, to make sure we are getting full benefit, but also to ensure the private sector can lean in, understand what we're doing a little bit more, share their expertise, and improve the quality of our work. And together as West Yorkshire to tell the same story and shout about our story externally, wherever it is that we need to be. So that's what this paper is setting out, just to update you, and I'm sure we'll come back at later meetings to give you a bit more information. Thank you.
Thank you for the update. Felix, any comments? Yes, Alan.
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Yeah, thank you for the paper. It'd be helpful to understand how and why we're choosing the people that are involved and what they're particularly representing. Have we done, for example, a skills audit to look at the particular areas where we're looking to identify? And it was notable to me the absence of, for example, the FSB or the Chamber of Commerce and more representative groups. So it'd be useful to understand that there's an attempt to make this representative rather than just sort of cherry picking people that we like to be on this, because it needs to represent all business voices.
Councillor, can I reassure you it's not just people that we like, because I don't know them. So they come with great experience and diversity across not just the region but sectors. But Ben, if you could just talk to the FSB point.
Thank you, Matt. So just picking up on Felix's comments earlier, we're transitioning from the requirements the government set out for LEPs in the past with a more flexible arrangement going forward. Under those previous arrangements, we had one representative from a business representative body representing all. That was the CBI. That's now changed to the FSB, and we're looking for how we can increase that representation in our new arrangement, as Felix has touched on. And essentially, this will, we think, allow us to use those business rep groups and work in partnership with them to a greater level than we've been able to in the past.
Any further comments? Yes, thank you, Rebecca.
Yeah, just wondering, we've got a representative from Leeds 2023 on, which I guess we're sort of coming to the end of now. And if we're looking going forward, would it not make more sense to have somebody from Bradford 2025 on the board?
Thanks. A lot of this is the people that have time to give to the committee, but also bearing in mind that there is representation on my culture committee, where there are decision making and quite urgent decisions about culture in our community. The contribution Leeds 2023 has given to our region is exponentially helped us make the case for culture in West Yorkshire. And you may know, Rebecca, that in the last year alone, we have had an uplift of 17% of jobs in the creative, sport and heritage in comparison to 6% in the rest of the country. So almost 3 times as many jobs have been created here in West Yorkshire. And this is the power of the representations on the LEP, on the Culture Committee, and the way that Leeds 2023 have really set the tone for our region. So they are incredibly welcome. But if you want to come in, Ben.
Well, Mayor, you get to talk about the exciting outcomes, and I get to talk about the process. Again, the rules that we were operating under with the LEP previously, appointments to the LEP were private sector members in an individual capacity based on their experience and their career, and were appointed on a 3-year basis. And that's how the current membership is made up. So that won't change unless LEP members choose to step away from the board, which some have done in the past. But at the moment, the appointments are for 3 years.
And I think that's good to reiterate that it's individual representation. So people come with a variety of skills, not just their initial business that they're currently working in. Any further comments? Yes, Sylvia.
Thank you, Mayor. It's just to comment on the point in there where it refers to further consideration is needed in order to see how best to work with the voluntary and community sector, and that work's being done on that. And it was just a plea from us along the same lines as you'll usually hear when these this sort of work is being done, that to make sure that there's proper coordination with local infrastructures with the voluntary sectors, and that there's no duplication, and that we build on those infrastructures that are already there.
That's a very good reminder, but that's why I wanted the voluntary sector to be part of the Mayor's Business Committee, or whatever we decide to call it, because they are such a vital part of the fabric of West Yorkshire. So I'm hoping they take a really full part in the committee. And with Fatima as well as our inclusivity champion, I know that we've got really good connections and relationships across the whole of West Yorkshire that we are deepening and widening. So always good to remind us. Thank you. So, okay, everyone happy to just take that paper? Thank you very much. It's not a recommendation, is it? It's just for information. Okay, so moving on to item 7, the brand review. This requests formal approval of the revised logo for West Yorkshire CA and Mayor of West Yorkshire, and to start using it from October. Can I pass over to Alan, please, to talk through the details?
Absolutely. Thanks very much. Mayor. So the Combined Authority brand has not been reviewed since 2017, and there have been quite a few changes since then, including the devolution deal, the mayoral election, etc. And the various decisions and investments that we're making now are different to what they were at that time, and we have an ever-evolving role in the delivery of transport across the region. Coupled with that, there have been some changes at national level. In particular, the funding that previously went to LEPs has been now that funding now effectively comes to combined authorities, and in West Yorkshire we have integrated the LEP with the combined authority. And then the government making an announcement in August that LEPs are not being supported. That now means that we need to move away from the current LEP brand, which we have used for just over 10 years. And clearly None of that about the LEP means that the relationship with the private sector in any way dwindles, and the item that we've just had reinforces the need for us to continue to deepen it. Since then, in the summer, the West Yorkshire Plan was also launched, which set out shared missions for the region. And all of that taken together means that we've wanted to look at the brand family, and in particular the brands for the core brands for the organisation. And to deliver what we want to deliver, and we want to make sure that the public have got a clear understanding of our decisions, our investments, the opportunities that we're creating. And we need to have a brand which is visible and accessible to everyone, and make sure that what the Mayor, the Combined Authority and partner councils are delivering is visible. And we want to make sure that there's a single unifying brand for the Combined Authority organisation that all colleagues can identify with. And at the moment, there are some issues in what I've just described, with multiple logos being in use. So we've carried out a piece of work to improve the situation, and the recommendation to the Combined Authority is for a revised logo shown on page 129 of your packs. This follows the development of a range of options and engagement with partners and the public. The proposal is for an interlinked rose, which shows the 5 constituent authorities working together as one through the Combined Authority, and of course the rose representing Yorkshire. The intention is to adopt this from October, and from that point for it to be used in all CA publications and all places where we would otherwise show the logo. That's all I'll say by way of introduction. Mayor, I'm very happy to take any questions, of course.
Thank you, and you can see just from your microphones how those two logos do not go together. But they served their purpose in the early days, and I think this maturing of us as a mayoral combined authority, I think it shows our seriousness and our ambition for the future, and also to be able to identify which funding stream this comes from, etc., etc. So I really want to thank you, Alan, and the team. Actually, it's been a bit of a long process, but we've got there. So I'm happy to take comments. Any comments on the brand review? No? Great stuff. Then we can take that recommendation and brings together the Combined Authority and the mayoral logo as that single unified logo. Okie doke. Moving on to item 8, the corporate change. This paper sets out an update on several staffing matters, notably the appointment of the new Strategy, Comms and Intelligence Director. And we're really looking forward to welcoming Sarah Eaton to the CA in October. Back to you, Alan.
Thank you very much, Mayor. It's simply for this paper is simply for the Combined Authority to note, as you say, Mayor, the appointment of Sarah Eaton as Strategy, Communications and Intelligence Director. She will be joining us in October. She joins us from Derbyshire County Council, where she's currently Assistant Director of Strategy and Policy, and we're delighted that she'll be joining us. The appointment followed the procedure that the Combined Authority agreed earlier in the year, where there was a delegation to the Chief Executive to make appointments following notification to the Combined Authority, and that process was duly followed, and you all received a communication about that during the summer. The paper also notes, for completeness, a change in the role of monitoring officer, where Caroline Allen, as the monitoring officer, her role has changed from Head of Legal and Governance to Deputy Director, Legal Governance and Compliance, following some internal change. So, as the monitoring officer is a designation by the Combined Authority, it's appropriate to be brought here to note. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you, and I'm really looking forward to Sarah joining. She'll bring a lot of energy and experience to this role. Thank you. So let's move on to the next item, UK Shared Prosperity Fund, item 9. This provides further update on the progress made on implementing West Yorkshire UK SPF local investment plans. This includes core UK SPF, the Multiply programme, you'll know that is the numeracy programme, and the Rural Fund. And this paper seeks approval of a recommended list of projects totalling 11.4 million of UK SPF in response to the Pillar 2 supporting local businesses invitation to bid. This supporting local businesses, key part of our economic development agenda, with the aim to support interventions which will support businesses to innovate, to grow, to export, Also, we're looking at, and I'm really thrilled to see this, exploring alternative business models with a view to looking at new solutions to long-term problems to help smaller businesses become more resilient, more sustainable. So an amazing portfolio of projects being proposed. But can I remind members, the context of Appendix 2 is exempt and we should refrain from discussing anything in the paper until we discuss in private. So does anybody want to discuss the appendix? Or do we have to move into private? We don't, so that's fantastic news. So I'll go over to Alan.
Okay, thank you very much, Mayor. So, as you said, the paper sets out we've made significant progress with delivery so far of just over 39 million of the core allocation has been contracted, and if the recommended projects for Pillar 2 are approved today, that will rise to 50. The next step will be the people and skills strand, which you'll remember does not come in until year 3, which is the next financial year. And the invitation to bid for that is on track to be published this coming month, with the intention being that projects are then able to kick in from the new year. Sorry, not from the new year, from the new financial year next April. So we're asking today for the Combined Authority to approve the proposals, the proposed projects that are recommended as part of Pillar 2, which is all about business support, so aiming to support businesses to export, grow, be resilient, and also consider alternative business models. We've had some really good bids to that. It's been really competitive, and there are a range of interventions which will help support new and existing businesses in the region. So the CA is being asked to approve those for immediate start. But if anyone's got any questions about those, as the Mayor said, we need to go into private session. Then the final thing on this is the delivery of Multiply, where we have redistributed some funding to support more work with individuals, and the remaining strands have been commissioned, including business training, with further delivery due to start this month. We were asked last time, there were some questions about the rural fund, so we've published some information as part of another appendix for you. We've seen an increase in that, and we've had 82 inquiries, including just 10 in the last week, I'm told. And 29 of those are now progressing to a full application worth nearly £1 million. Mayor, you are due to visit the first business awarded a grant next month to help showcase the opportunities of the Rural Fund. And then the team are doing some further workshops through this autumn in each local authority area to further raise the profile of the availability of those funds. I'll just stop there, Mayor. Thank you.
Thank you. Just to remind everybody as well that the Shared Prosperity Fund is not equivalent to the European funding that we had, and it is also incredibly complicated. So can I just say my thanks to Heather and her team, trying to make it as easy and agile as possible given the restraints imposed by government on what is required in order to bid, etc. But also to thank the businesses that have bid into it, that will help us to deliver on exports, on training and skills, and particularly the rural element. I'm pleased to see so many people interested there. So thank you to Heather and her team. Any comments before we get to approvals? Yes, Susan.
Just to emphasise your point about this replaces the EU fund, the structural funds, I'm not sure what the difference, do you know the difference in what we got for the EU and what we get now for UK Shared Prosperity Fund?
Sorry, we get less now. I can't remember the exact figures off the top of my head, but it is less.
If memory serves me right, I think we get 2/3 of what we used to get.
Well, obviously, in times of inflation as well, that becomes even less money we used to get, doesn't it, really? So we have to use this money wisely and well, as I know we will do. But there is lots more we could do with more investment, isn't there, at the current time?
And if I may say, with further devolution, where we don't have to jump through these tortuous hoops in order to allocate money to people and businesses of West Yorkshire. Yes, Rebecca.
Thank you. Just on the rural fund, obviously it sounds like since the report was put together, there's been more interest coming in, which is good to hear, because it was a bit disappointing, the number of applications in the papers. It does say that there's going to be these further workshops to try and get some more interest. So can we be advised when the workshops are? Because if I wasn't on the CA, as a rural councillor, I would have no knowledge at all about this fund to be able to promote it to rural businesses. So if we can sort of get that out to councillors across the authorities, please. Ellen?
Yes, absolutely. Of course we will. Thank you.
Super. Okay, so just moving on to approval. So the first recommendation is for members to note the progress, and secondly, can members note the recommendations for UKSPF Local Partnership Group from its meeting 31st of July. Yeah. And thirdly, for members to approve the recommended list of projects totalling 11,416,316 pounds of UKSPF in response to the Pillar 2 supporting local business invitation to bid. Can we approve? Happy to approve. Fantastic. So moving on to the item 10, which is the property matter. As we resolved at the beginning of this meeting, this has to be in private. So can I ask all members of public and press, together please with officers other than directors and officers directly connected with this item, please could you leave the room and we will stop recording. Thank you.